As much as I love to go out and go mountain biking by myself or with friends, I'm a dad. So I also want to go with my kids. Right now, I've got 3 kids that are able to ride a pedal bike, and I've been trying out getting used ones. I got a used Marin, a used Raleigh, and now I'm going to be trying something new. This is a kid's bike by CXWXC. You're able to get it on Amazon. And in this video, I'm going to go over some of the specs and talk about why I was actually interested in testing this out with my kids. I feel like with all my kids, at some point, they finally become interested enough that they actually want to start pedaling on the bike as opposed to a balance bike. And so my 4-year-old just hit that stage. And although I had 2 kids before that went through this phase and rode a 16-inch bike, theirs were cheap ones from Walmart, and both of them had kind of been so abused they weren't really working all that well anymore. So I went on the hunt for a bike that she could use. And at the same time, this brand reached out to me, said, "Hey, do you want to test this bike out?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So it does come in 3 sizes. It comes in 14, 16, and 18-inch wheels. So that's good for probably about 2 or 3 all the way up to maybe 9 years old. As I mentioned, this is the 16-inch version, so about perfect for 4 and 5-year-olds. To be perfectly honest, I get lots of emails like this all the time from Amazon and other Chinese brands typically that are asking if I want to test out products. And sometimes, well, I usually say no. Sometimes though, I do think there is some reason to try it out. Kids bikes are an interesting one because I'm not a huge believer in buying super expensive ones. There's a lot of really nice ones out there made by Salsa, by Cleary, by Woom. And while those are really cool, I feel like especially at this younger age, up to about 5 or 6, maybe even 7, kids just abuse their bike like crazy. Except for, unless you're a super dedicated, that's what your family does, that's the only thing they do. These get left out in the rain, in the snow. They just do crazy things with them. And so I'm not a huge believer in spending a ton of money on them. That's why I've typically gone with either a used bike or just, like I said, something from Walmart. Unfortunately, durability-wise on those Walmart ones is not great. And they're like way more expensive than they used to be. The cheapest ones are around $60 in my area, at least. That's like the bottom of the barrel. And if you go up a step from that, you're in the hundreds. This 16-inch one does come in at just a hair over 200, but it seems to be frequently on sale in the upper 100s, anywhere from 170 to 190. That's honestly not all that bad, especially because this has a few features that I was kind of interested in to see how it would do with a kid. The first thing that really caught my eye was the fact that it has a front disc brake. So there's not one on the rear. Back here is a coaster brake, your typical pedal backwards to stop. But it has this little tiny, look at that rotor, this little tiny front disc brake, and I thought that's actually pretty cool, teaching a kid how to use a handbrake already, because even my son, he's 8, that was a struggle at first for him to get comfortable with that. And so if you could start out this early where they still have the coaster brake, but they're able to learn how to use a handbrake, that is pretty cool in my opinion. The other thing about this is the frame. It is a magnesium aluminum frame, which I think allows them to get some of these cool shapes in here. This cool looking frame design. My daughter thinks it's amazing. Interestingly, it looks like it's got internal routing. I haven't tried to push anything through there, but it comes through there, goes all along the frame, comes through this middle, and then comes out the back. So I guess you could actually add a rear brake and you'd have front and rear brakes. So a little bit of upgradability. The thing I was hoping for with this frame material was that it would be super lightweight, but for some reason it's not. It's comes in at 20 pounds, which is not super light, even for a kid's bike. I don't understand why exactly. I don't know if it's because it's got a disc brake on it, or maybe it's this quill stem up here. Yeah, honestly, it could be the wheels. But for some reason, it's a little bit heavier than you'd think. And bike weight's extra important when it comes to kids because they are small. So imagine, say they weigh 40 pounds. Imagine if your bike was half of your body weight, how that would affect the way you rode. So I was looking for that, a little disappointed on the weight. Other than that, pleasantly surprised with like the saddle and some of these other components. It did come with training wheels, took those off right away. Didn't let her ride with those. She's ridden a balance bike enough. She doesn't need that. Overall, pretty impressed with it so far. And my daughter's ridden it quite a bit. And even my son, who's 8. It does also come in 3 different colors. There's this pinky purple one, which my daughter loves. There's a lime green and white, and then there's like a black and gold. In the 18-inch version, does come with a rear disc brake. So you got front and rear on that one already. As I mentioned, I don't typically do these reviews of some of these, Amazon vendors, things like that. But this one I thought was interesting enough to try out. It's got some features that are gonna elevate it above a big box store, a Walmart bike, but at the same time, it's still a little bit cheaper than some of the other options out there. Unfortunately, I think the biggest thing I wish was different was just the bike weight. If this came in at, say, 17, 18 pounds, 2 or 3 pounds lighter, this would be an incredible deal. Because even like Cleary, who's known for their very lightweight bikes, and Woom, their 16-inch, I think, comes in at 16 pounds, a little around there. And that isn't with a disc brake on it. That's with rim brakes. But yeah, I do think that's probably where some of the weight's coming from. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to subscribe. I've put a link to it down in the description. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.